Welcome to the Predictive Playbook. I am John Ryan, your host. I can be found at John Ryan Sports, the number one, on Twitter, and I'm pleased to be with Chris Wassel today again to talk NHL. He is the former beat writer for the New Jersey Devils and a whole bunch of other things. He writes for Number Fire. I could spend 5 minutes talking about his accolades. But it's hard to talk accolades right now, Chris, when we get the news this morning of Tiger Woods, and I think all our thoughts, our prayers, and everything possible is going out to him and his family to somehow pull through this. But it's very scary to listen to what we're hearing with this accident and had it be extracted, et cetera, et cetera. So we won't speculate on it, but I know we have heavy hearts right now, and it's a little bit tough to talk about, a privilege that we all enjoy when one of our heroes is, possibly in some serious trouble. So again, all the prayers in the world out to Tiger Woods. So how are you doing after that, Chris?
It definitely was a jolt this morning. Like I've said to people, heroes aren't perfect. They're human. And you looked at Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods was making a profession. Let's face it, it's been a long time where he's made a professional and mental and physical comeback from all the things that befell him 10, 15 years ago. And no matter what you think of him as a person now, he is definitely not the person now that he was then, even in his heyday. In that absolute prime window where everything he touched turned to winning. He just was incredible. And now you saw him as this ambassador of the game. Look, by all accounts, this is a guy that he knew his fame. He was what they call a max introvert, personality wise. And this is a guy that's taken all these years to open up and embrace his role in the game. And to see what happened this morning it's heartbreaking. And you just hope that the injuries aren't that severe. Nobody really seems to know fully. They believe it's not life-threatening, but you don't really know until we just know that he's in surgery and that it was a severe and violent collision where he rolled over several times. And you just hope, like anything, like we said, that he can go back to living his life on his terms.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best prayer in the world right now for him. I did see here while you were talking that they believe now the injuries are not life-threatening, but at least 2 broken legs is what is being written.
Still rough.
And before we went on the air, you and I were talking, and he has basically an artificial knee from swinging a golf club, which is a violent move. And we have to hope that that's good too, because I'm not done with watching him play. I mean, he arguably had one of the greatest comebacks of any athlete in the history of any sport. Of course, Alex Smith comes to mind too, but arguably one of the best when he won the Masters. I mean, there's no question about that.
You figure between the knee and the spinal fusion, which you think of how minuscule the odds are that you can even come back and play a sport competitively after having the kind of spinal fusion done that Tiger Woods underwent. And look, it's impressive. And now you see, God, this to happen, and again, you just hope it's all you can really do.
Yeah, and he's got his son Charlie, who's 11 years old. I mean, we can just go on and on with this. It's just, it's just bizarre. Not bizarre. It's it's just tragic, I guess. I don't know how to describe it, but I'm sure we'll find out more news in the next 24 hours, and hopefully it'll be better than what we're hearing right now. But anyway, let's move on to the hockey world. And in hockey here, I had run a little chart here in my database on the teams. And right now, the team that has won the most money by betting on them is the The Panthers, which is the $100 better, has made $562. If you would have bet against them every game, you would have lost $689. So the worst team is the Red Wings, which is not surprising. That is minus 626 for the $100 better, so that's a pretty big swing. The Chicago Blackhawks, if you would have bet on all their games, $0. Perfectly flat. Average line is a 126 dog, though. So that kind of stands out to me as well. But the first game on the board here is looking at Tuesday, February 23rd here on our chart from good old Wager Talk. Is rotation 47 and 48. Montreal is visiting Ottawa. This game opened at minus 210. Montreal is a favorite, plus 175 to Ottawa. It's now gone up to 215, plus 195. I know in the team total, Chris, I wanted to get your opinion on this because me looking at team totals is something new. And I think the under in Ottawa, I think it's at 2.5 here, even though I hate paying the minus 120 and I never will pay more than that. I actually think that might be a good bet. And I'm wondering what you think.
It's right on the cusp. The one problem that Montreal has, unfortunately, is playing teams like Ottawa, though. And this is where it gets dicey. Montreal just has a real issue with playing bad teams. Last year it was Detroit, and they probably single-handedly missed the playoffs last year because they lost 4 times in regulation to Detroit alone, which was 8 lost points. And nobody could figure out how they would find and it wasn't like they lost one way to Detroit. They lost different ways. They had a lead, blew it. They came out flat one time, lost. Another game, Detroit had 3 power play goals in a period. I mean, there was just different ways where they would just find ways to lose. And the last time these two teams met, lo and behold, Ottawa won 2-1. So it's just one of those games that you could sit there and go, well, okay, who's starting in that? Okay, well, for the sake of argument, I'll take a look at that, and it's like, well, it's obviously the guys that you would expect. Now here's the fun part. The line has swung up. 70% of the money is actually on this is the rough estimate anyway. 70% of the money is on Ottawa, and part of the reason why is, to be perfectly honest, well, because of that fear, and that fear is very real that Montreal could potentially lose this game. Now, if you look at every other metric, you look at implied score and all the others. I mean, implied score is Montreal by a little more than 1.5 goals. Their implied, John, is around 4.
Okay.
Based on their numbers, and Ottawa's is actually a little bit above 2.5. So that gets me worried a little bit as far as the over under. Does the dam break, so to speak, in this game? Unlike the last 2, that's a little bit of a problem. Now I can pivot back on some sites right now. I can either go with 6 or 6.5 as the over. Obviously the risk involved. Man, that under 6.5, for example, is just way high. I mean, that's I've seen it as high as 140. It's come back a little bit, around 135. So the team under at 2.5 is intriguing. Ottawa's going to be right on the cusp, John. They're going to be right.
It's probably going to pass on it, but I think it's for our listeners, it's probably
one to look at.
Yeah, I don't think you play the over. You either pass or take Ottawa under 2.5, and
yeah, if that number climbs, say minus 125, forget it. If you can get below 1, if you can get a minus 115 on it, then okay. If it stays at minus 120, that 2.5, don't bother. It's just not. It's not really worth. It's just not worth the dough. It really is not.
Agreed. So then we'll move on to the next game here, and we have. The next game was the Islanders at New Jersey, as you can see on the board, but that was postponed, and then they did the write-in game, which is down here.
Isn't it wild that they just wrote in New Jersey and Buffalo magically? It's like, oh wait, this was the original miniseries that turned into let's just send the Devils to Washington and then back. Look, Buffalo plays a total of 5 times this week overall. This is game 2 of 5. So
that's incredible to me. I've always said that in the regular schedule, they sometimes have to play 4 times in a week. NFL is every Sunday, once a week. And these guys are going 20 miles an hour on skates. And I've always had an admiration for that. That a couple of days off and then you're right back at it again. And I'm certainly not saying the NFL players aren't tough. I just think the NHL is very unique in the abuse that their bodies take over a season of 82 games. I mean, it's just remarkable. But in this game here, we opened up at minus 125 plus 105 with New Jersey being the dog. And then the total's been rock solid at 5.5 goals. Little vig there at DraftKings minus 120 to play under.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, I'm kind of lost on this matchup to begin with, so I'm sure you probably have a good point of view to share and maybe get my eyes focused on an opportunity.
Yeah, there's a little bit of an opportunity with this. Look, the Devils probably, at least right as the current moment, probably have one of the worst penalty kills in the last decade. And any Devils fan will sit there and once you see them go on the penalty kill, you cringe immediately. It's an unfortunate reality, especially when they played Washington on Sunday. Now, some of the numbers are interesting. Like, for example, I think you could sneak this on a few sites. I don't know how this is going to pan out, but I know DraftKings was almost dead even for the over at 5.5. It's been waddling. It was waddling right around about minus 100 to 105. And again, if you can get that number, you get it below 110. I'm running with it because I don't think the Devils are going to start off god awful twice.
You wouldn't think.
Yeah, I mean it was bad. I mean at one point Buffalo was out shooting them 10 to 3. So that's not normal for New Jersey, especially even strength. They've been a much better even strength team than special teams. Obviously, has been just horrendously bad. They're among the worst 3 teams in the league. That often doesn't bode well if you take a ton of penalties. Fortunately, New Jersey does not. They're in the top 10 for fewest minors taken. By the way, the team that has the fewest is the team they're playing, ironically, which is Buffalo. A total of 5 penalty minutes per game, not including majors. So that's an extremely low number.
Yeah, that is. That's historically low, I guess. Multiple seasons, very few teams are that low. I didn't even know that.
Very few. I mean, you'll see a 5.5. You'll see 5.5 to start, but not 15. To be fair, though, I mean, Buffalo's only 15, about 14, 15 games into the season, too, because of COVID. So there's a little bit of a different context to this. But for this game, at least, you expect New Jersey to at least pop in enough goals to put the over in play. And if the money line comes down enough, yeah, I'll take a shot at New Jersey. I can't see them losing twice at home to Buffalo, especially after the sour taste of what happened over the weekend.
Who are the goalies in this game? Because if my memory serves correct, these two teams don't have like an elite goalie on either squad. Or am I wrong?
Oh, no. Mackenzie Blackwood actually, advanced stats-wise, probably had the best start out of any goalie in the league. His overall numbers are rather good on a porous. Look, the Devils allow a ton of shots and a ton of scoring chances, but Blackwood's actually been excellent in net and probably be one of the key players tonight. Going in overall. Linus Ullmark is starting for the Sabres, so you're going to have teams that are playing their better goaltenders as of this moment, and yet despite that, familiarity breeds contempt. And in this case, familiarity breeds a little higher expected goal total in this one, and that's why a lot of money is going towards the over. I think right now it's about 70-30 on the over. So I could see it with the near even odds. It's definitely a pick. Would I pick the Devils to win more by more than one goal, bringing the puck line into play? No.
Wow, look at this. 2.5. The total's 5.5.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to pay 145.
That's the only thing. That's a big pay for a team total.
That's tempting. In my world of being contrarian, that's almost under New Jersey play.
Yeah, you could go the other way and go for it.
Yeah. So you're thinking over the total in this game.
Over the overall, it probably hits right at 6 or 7.
I'm just going to jot that down for our record keeping. We're using the closing line for those that are watching for the first time or maybe have never heard me say that, because it's the only fair way to do it. You're watching it live. There's going to be, a lot of other people watching this archive between now and 7 o'clock Eastern Standard, and that's the only fair way I know how to do this. We can't put down the line now and then say the line goes in our favor because we were on the show and other people weren't. That's not exactly fair. So this is the best way, I think. And everybody knows how we're doing it. All right, so over Buffalo, New Jersey is a pick. You ready to move on to the next one?
I sure am.
Here we have Pittsburgh is at Washington. And this is a game that ought to be pretty exciting to watch, at least. Open, not that the others weren't, but this one just kind of stands out. Total of 6 on the opening. That is now up to 6.5. Look at that juice at Westgate, minus 120. Well, it's 6.5 under 120. That's not all that bad, but it did go up half a goal. Mm-hmm. The line opened at minus 130. With Washington being favored, it now has done a reverse move to Pittsburgh. So that tells me that there might have been a goalie change, or maybe there was an injury where a player's not playing. And if anybody knows that information, it's you.
Yep. Here's the thought process from the game. This comes down to simply the old evil adage of bookies are thinking that maybe Tristan Jarry from the Penguins has turned the corner a little bit, and there's some confidence in him as a goaltender. He has played better over the past three or four games. So there's that. There's also the fact that it was thought that there was a possibility that Washington might start Ilya Samsonov, but they've gone with the young AHL goalie. Well, not really AHL goalie, because he's played a whole bunch in the early going. Vitek Vanacek. And if you look at just the general numbers, John, the game you expect to see goals, and the last meeting there wasn't. Now Washington scored their 3 goals like they almost normally do against Pittsburgh, and they have in 12 of their last 14 games against them. But Pittsburgh only scored once. And the reason why the juice is on this game so much is because most just do not expect that to happen with Pittsburgh again, because of how often they score in this series. I mean, look, 8 of the last 12 games have hit the over in this series. And it's not at the level of, say, the old Philly-Pittsburgh games from the early 2000 teens where it seemed like every game was just up and down offense, but it's pretty close. These teams tend to play a more 4-3 type of game, which, 4 + 3 is 7, and, well, there you go. There's the over. And it seems like that might be the case tonight. Again, with the money swinging around a little bit, hey, if you can get plus money out of either here, this is truly a pick'em game if I've ever seen it. So, for example, on DraftKings, Pittsburgh is dead even, and you maybe will still get that at game time if you get something close. I would take a shot at it. I mean, that's dead even.
Yeah, I would lean that way too. I was looking at the goalie stats. This will be his 15th start. He's 7-4. 2 of those matches ended in ties or overtime shootout losses.
Yep.
His goals against, his save percentage is 90.7, which is definitely in the top 30 probably in the league.
Yep.
Goals against is I guess a little bit high, 2.92, but the rest of the stuff here looks pretty darn good.
Yeah, and the reason why the juice is I get why the juice is a little bit on Pittsburgh is because Jarry has looked excellent in his last 4 starts. He really has from a rebound control standpoint, something that just was not there early in the year for whatever reason. Nobody knows. So, again, if somebody sits there, they look at the number and they see if Hubbard stays around even, it is a definite lean to go with Pittsburgh. There's just a couple more games left, John. Actually,
yeah. Chicago's at Columbus. Chicago's 9-6-0-4, 22 points. Columbus 8-7-0-4, 20 points. Looks like the goaltenders are going to be Kevin Lankinen, and Columbus will have Joonas Korpisalo. I love these names. It's sometimes it's a pretty big challenge, but those two weren't so bad. But this game sees Columbus looks like it opened at -130, and now it's been bet down to -117. So what's interesting is, right off the bat, if you look at the money here, 58% of the tickets are on Chicago, but 67% of the money. So that means the Sharps are on Columbus, and the line went down.
Yep.
And
quickly.
That's pretty rare, but that tells us something.
Yeah, there's something to this, and it didn't just go down by a little, because I'm looking at some of the numbers here, and it's like, well, this was near, and now we've gone completely the other way.
Yep.
And I thought it might, even with Korpisalo starting. Columbus is pretty banged up. Chicago's road record is not the greatest, so it does make a little bit of sense. Again, this might be one where, look, if you can sneak it, and Korpisalo is struggling, and we know Columbus can pot a few goals themselves. It's another one where you may just want to take the over here, and hope one of these teams wins by more than 1 goal, basically. But it's another kind of lean scenario. There's really not too many sure picks tonight. I've noticed that just the more people you talk to, the more worrisome you get about this type of slate. It's not your normal 9, 10, 11, 12 game slate on a Tuesday. It's a 6-game filler slate almost,
right?
For lack of a better term. And these are all crap nights.
And the best example of the first game with Ottawa, you talked me out of the betting under 2.5 for Ottawa, and that's what these shows are all about. It's not trying to come up with watching 11 different shows and then betting everything they say just because you think that'll make the money. Actually, that'll end up losing money over time, and it's nothing against the other shows. It's just the nature of the beast. The more you bet, the greater the opportunity for loss. It's much better to bet like 3 games a night or less, and just go with the results. That's how I've been doing it for 26 years. That's a long time. I can't even believe I'm that old. I don't look that old.
Right.
It's not like I was doing this when I was 6. But moving on to the next game here, I think we have 2 more to go. Nashville, Detroit. Nashville has 70% of the tickets, 84% of the money. The under has 60% of the tickets, but the over is garnering 79. So that immediately points me to the over in this game. So 5.5 under. So we need 6 goals, and both teams would have to obviously score 3 or more. Let's see what the team totals look like on this game.
Yeah,
so here we are.
Your jaw's going to drop with this one.
Yeah, it is. It is. I hope it's not dropping on camera though, but that's shocking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the projected score is so much different than the actual goal totals.
That's crazy. 3.5 under.
Yep.
And then 160.
Yep.
Tell me what I'm missing, not wanting to bet Nashville over at plus. It's got to be what, plus 140?
Yep, it's that high.
So they would have 4 goals. I'm a winner.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's wrong with my bet if there's anything that comes to mind? Like, I try to talk me off the cliff here from putting a big bet on the 4-goal over Nashville.
The amount of inconsistency, unfortunately, that Nashville has. Look, Nashville started off 2-0 in the season. They've been 5-10 since. That's one of the big problems. The other one is the most obvious. They scored 4 goals the other night against Columbus, and that's part of why they're a little bit higher than they should. And then you look at Detroit. Detroit hasn't scored 3 or more goals in 4 games themselves. They usually give up 3 or more. And even then, this is where it gets comical. Even then, they've only given up more than 3 goals once in the last 5 games. I mean, the one game. Here's the problem: the one game in the last 5 that Detroit has scored more than 3 goals was against, you guessed it, John, the Nashville Predators, and that's the last time the over hit. Yeah,
so that talks me off the cliff in a pretty quick fashion. I just ran my some of my machine learning apps. The expectation is that Nashville will score 2.1 goals tonight. So that then aligns with that minus 160 juice 3.5.
Yep.
At minus 160, it really should be 3 or 2.5.
It should be 2.5, and it's not. They're some of the prognosticators are presuming that just because Ryan Johansson is coming back for Nashville that they'll magically score. Johansson actually doesn't shoot much and doesn't often bring much to the table other than a little bit of cohesion with the top line and the power play. That's about it. I mean, these are both teams that have awful penalty kills, and yet against each other, comically, you just never know which team is going to be the one that shows up special teams wise, and that usually determines the difference in the game. So it's one of those where it's like, you know what? Allison Chain said it best. I stay away.
Yeah, I agree. I'm distanced myself from that bet a lot because that it was begging you. The market was telling you to take the over, and it looks like a trap. It definitely looks like a trap. So the last one here is Edmonton at Vancouver. So Edmonton's 12-8, 0-0, 24 points. Vancouver 8-12, 0-2, 18 points. Vancouver opened as, well, actually, Edmonton opened as minus 125 favorite. Now 132 at Circa, 130 at Westgate. South Point the highest at 135. Over. Total has been consistent at 6.5 with no change.
Yep.
What do you see in this one?
This one's another. Like I said, there's really not that many. There's not that many sure locks tonight. But the one thing that keeps trending, God, other than a ton of shot props, is just, you know what? This may be one where it's like if you see the over 6.5 at anything less than 115, at least lean towards it. That's really it. I mean, this is likely to be a high scoring game. And the predictive score actually has it right around at a straight 7, John. It's 6.98. So I'll call it at 7. It's not the greatest of bets. According to trend analysis, this gets a grade of about a C. So, yeah, again,
it's pizza money.
Yeah, it's pizza money, and this is what we're going to trying to teach people here. This is not an easy slate to play tonight. There's no real easy ways out. There's nothing you can really say that will convince anybody that otherwise. The other thing you may want to try and do is if the over under on the first period is say 1.5, you might want to lean there, but there is no locks in this game tonight, unfortunately, and that's what we're going to kind of go with, at least on this last one, John. So
yeah, I think the overs. I mean, they're coming off a game scoring 7, and they've scored 8 against Ottawa on January 31st.
Yep,
and they've also given up 6 on February 15th to good old Winnipeg. So the lean, it's pizza money. It's if you want to watch a game and put $20 on it, then that would make it more entertaining, I guess. But I definitely agree with Chris that this is a very difficult card. And I guess to sum up our plays, we really only have the over Buffalo, New Jersey, which we talked about first. And then a pretty good lean on Columbus, I think. I like that money situation right there with Chicago, 59 of the tickets, and then 66 of the money's on Columbus. The line's going down. That's pretty rare. And if you get minus 110, that's a very cheap price, I think, to get on Columbus. So I think if you agree, Chris, we'll make those our 2 best bets for the show.
That sounds good to me.
And just writing it down here. And I guess that's about it for today. So we thank everybody for watching. And I don't know how to say this really. I'm a believer in God, and even if you're not, put your thoughts and prayers with Tiger. He's not even a mountain in sports. I mean, he's like the one of the most important athletes we've ever seen in any sport, and it would just be so tragic if this comes out, not the way we all hope it and pray it will. So give that some consideration, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. And I promise to be more cheerful. Hopefully, we'll have good news. And for the Predictive Playbook, I'm John Ryan, and for Chris Wallace, may all the wins be yours.